Today we're jumping right into the plot of Leo Tolstoy's classic novella, The Death of Ivan Ilych. And what's so fascinating about it is that it's a story that really only starts to examine a man's life right after it's over. Right from the get-go, Tolstoy gives us this incredible lens to see the story through. I mean, think about that line. A simple, ordinary life, and that's what made it terrible. This one sentence really sets the stage for everything that follows. So let's see how that plays out, and you might think we'd start at the beginning of Ivan's life, right? But nope. Tolstoy kicks things off with the news of its end. So picture this, we're dropped right into the law courts. A trial is on a break, and Ivan's colleague, Peter Ivanovich, is just casually glancing at the newspaper when he makes the announcement to their whole circle. Just like that. So, are they heartbroken? Filled with grief? Not really. The very first thought that pops into their heads is all about the professional shuffle. You know, who's going to get his job? Am I going to get a promotion? There's this quiet, almost smug relief that, hey, it's him who's dead, not me. Going to the funeral feels like a total chore. And his so-called friend Schwartz is already worried this whole thing is going to mess up their card game tonight. Pretty cold. Later on, Peter Ivanovich does the proper thing and goes to pay his respects. But the whole experience is just super awkward. He's stumbling through these stilted formal conversations, clearly unsure of how he's supposed to act. And when he looks at Ivan's body in the coffin, it kind of gives him the chills. The expression on Ivan's face seems to carry this weird mix of reproach and a warning to everyone still alive. It's a deeply unsettling moment for Peter. But does he dwell on it? No. He shakes it off pretty fast, eager to just get out of there and back to his own comfortable life. Okay, so that's how it ends. But who was this guy? How did Ivan Ilych actually live his life? Well, now the story rewinds and takes us all the way back to the beginning of his very proper and conventional life. Ivan's life is basically a textbook on how to climb the social ladder. Seriously, he checks all the boxes. He's always agreeable, always cheerful. He goes to a great school, gets a series of promotions, marries a respectable woman. His entire life is about doing the right thing, the expected thing, the thing that will get him ahead. But then, his home life starts getting complicated, especially after his wife gets pregnant. So what does Ivan do? He builds this wall. He separates his life into two completely different zones. His work becomes this safe space, this fenced-off world where he has power and feels satisfied. And he uses it as a shield against his family life, which he just starts to see as one big constant annoyance. And the thing that brings this whole carefully constructed life crashing down, it's so small, it's almost ridiculous. He's decorating his new house, which is like the ultimate symbol of his success. He's hanging curtains, slips on a ladder, and bumps his side. That's it. Just a little knock. He barely thinks anything of it. But this tiny accident is where everything starts to go wrong. And that little knock, it wasn't nothing. It kicks off this slow, unstoppable decline. A nagging pain starts in his side, and along with it comes this deep irritability that just poisons the perfect, pleasant life he worked so hard to build. Suddenly, there's only one question in the world that matters to Ivan. He goes to see a famous doctor, but the whole thing is just frustrating. All Ivan wants to know is, am I going to be okay? But the doctor seems way more interested in the puzzle of it all. Is it a floating kidney, appendicitis, than in Ivan's actual fear? The doctor talks to him in this cold, technical way. You know, just like Ivan talks to people in his own courtroom, he talks about kidneys and tests, but he just will not answer the simple human question, is this dangerous? Ivan leaves feeling like for the doctor, he's just an interesting case study, but for him, this is his life. And this is what starts to drive him absolutely mad. He starts calling it the lie. It's this unspoken agreement everyone around him, his family, his doctors, makes to pretend that he's just sick, that if he takes his medicine and rests, everything will be fine. And they all refuse to look at the one obvious truth, that he's dying. So he's getting sicker and sicker, and this lie is just suffocating him. He feels like he's drowning in all the fakeness, but then he finds a bit of a lifeline, and you're not going to believe where it comes from. His wife, Praskovia, is kind of the worst about it. For her, his illness is just another thing he's doing to annoy her. His suffering is an inconvenience that's messing up her social plans and making her miserable. She is the number one enforcer of the lie. But then there's Gerasim, the young peasant servant, and he is the complete, total opposite of everyone else. He's healthy, he's cheerful, and he's the only one who doesn't lie. He looks at death and just accepts it. And he helps his master out of simple, honest compassion. And this is where Ivan finds his only real comfort with Gerasim. The young man will sit with him for hours, holding Ivan's legs up on his shoulders just to ease the pain. And in those moments, Ivan feels this incredible relief. Because Gerasim is the one person who acknowledges the truth and offers him genuine pity. So surrounded by all these lies, with only Gerasim for company, Ivan is left totally alone with his pain and his thoughts. And that's when he starts to really look back on the kind of life he lived. And as he sips through his memories, he has this gut-wrenching realization. The real moments of joy, they were almost all in his childhood. Everything else, his career, his marriage, all his social climbing, it all feels so fake and empty now. It's like he was climbing a ladder in society, but his real life was just slipping away. Then, for the very first time, this huge, terrifying idea hits him. What if the real problem isn't his illness? What if his life was the sickness all along? But he just can't accept that. No way. His brain just short-circuits. He's thinking, but I did everything right. I followed all the rules. I was proper. The idea that his proper life was actually the wrong life is just too much to handle. In his last hours, he has this awful, terrifying feeling like he's being shoved into a tight, dark, black sack. He fights it. He struggles, but he keeps getting pushed deeper and deeper until finally, at the very end, something breaks. And the story ends with Ivan's own desperate question just hanging in the air. He wonders why a life that he lived so correctly has to end with so much pointless pain. And that leaves us to wonder with him, what is the real difference between living a proper life and living a good one?